will certainly invite conversations, or rather, it means more feedback from the audience. So I'll start with Kivuva. If I'll give you the floor to introduce yourself, and in fact, I think you're hiding. Bob is here. Bob, please join us. We have a big stage to ourselves. Yeah, so the last panel, and I promise it won't be boring. I'm not sure what Kennick has in store for us this evening. I suspect it's tea, a lot of tea out there. We are going to discuss shaping Kenya's digital outlook, a conversation with thought leaders. I have Mr. Kivuva here, who is going to introduce himself quickly. And Bob, they're not strangers because they were here in previous panels, but I'll start by giving an opportunity to Kivuva and then to Bob, then we'll get into the round of questions. Mwendwa?
Okay, thank you, Barrack. And because we are 3, so you will also become a panelist. So you will join this panel, not just moderating. So my name is Mwendwa Kivuva from KICTANet, and KICTANet is a research capacity building think tank based in Nairobi, but we work globally.
Thank you. Bob?
Thank you, Barrack. So my name is Bob Ochieng. I work for the internet, or ICANN, whichever is interesting for you. Probably just want to point out that ICANN is an acronym for a bit longer name, which stands for the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. And it is those last 2 N's that are critical for this discussion: assigned names and assigned numbers. So that's what really we try and do. And maybe we will discuss a bit of that in this session as well.
Thank you very much. Please prepare yourselves because I'll be coming back to the audience for this conversation. This session will be looking at shaping Kenya's digital outlook, a conversation with thought leaders. I'm sure that the team that is here is just a representation of the many great men and women that have put this country where it is. I think most of you or all of you already know that the internet and generally ICT is a major priority for this government, which is a good thing that the government has recognized it. And there are many efforts or many initiatives by government, civil society, the private sector, technical community, and other actors that are working towards achieving this. And I'm sure there are many who are seated out there who are contributing to these initiatives. So on to Kivuva as we start the conversation. What are some of the critical issues, if you summarize, that are shaping Kenya's digital future or Kenya's digital ecosystem? We are mindful of the fact that many years back, some of our leaders came up with the Vision 2030, which summarizes our national aspirations that will enable us to move to another level. And most of the efforts we've been making have been geared towards driving us to this particular destination. And secondly, as you speak, what role should the Kenyan multi-stakeholder ecosystem play in helping to achieve these goals?
Okay, thank you, Barrack. I see you have thrown me a loaded question. Here's a part A and a part B. So I think I will first attempt part A. In the last 2 months, we've had a sort of insurrection in Kenya brought about by the youth, or what we are calling Gen Z. And one issue we should actually counter as a nation or talk about is availability of human resource. Because we see some statistics say Gen Zs are around 34% of the adult population, some even say 50%. And most of these young people are either not in formal employment or don't have any meaningful work they are doing, or they are underemployed. By underemployed, I mean the work they are doing, they could be doing far much for the economy. For example, there is one popular shop in Nairobi which takes young people and they walk in the roads carrying billboards, advertising their products. Some yellow billboards written in black. I don't want to mention the organization, but I can mention it because they walk in the streets. It's House of Leather, yeah, like ICANN. So that is underemployment. People, they take like 10 people walking around roundabouts, are walking in streets. You can imagine that is serious underemployment. And why are they doing that? Because there is availability of young people who have nothing else to do, and they will rather go and earn that 300 shillings per day instead of them advertising any other platform. And our young people are actually educated. You know, sometimes I see organizations say that one of the problems we have in Kenya is either lack of human resource or educated resources to be able to work. But all these tech organizations that we have in our country, they are manned by Kenyans. A youth probably in the university will not have been trained on that particular job, but within a month or two, they will be able to catch up and do the work that is needed. So how are we able now to tap into this youth and make them more productive for economy? Because I can tell you, Andrew, we will not be able to grow this domain, these numbers, without businesses. Those numbers we are seeing in Germany, .d or China, are not people sitting idle at home. They are businesses, they are entrepreneurs, they are people doing something meaningful for the economy. So unless we are able to harness on our human resources as a nation, then our economy and the digital economy will have a bigger challenge in growing. So I will want to emphasize on that aspect of the youth. And of course, there are others that will come later.
Great. And secondly, what role do you see? Because we are talking about partnerships. I think it's the clarion call of this meeting. And we are here because of partnerships between government, private sector, civil society, and academia. And I think we are at an inflection point. That time it was about formation. This time it's about leaping forward or growth. So what role do you see? And maybe you could point out some of the key things that different stakeholders can take on.
So multi-stakeholderism is something that is big in Kenya. So in the last 15 years, we have seen multi-stakeholderism getting root, and it's actually enshrined in the Constitution, because when we talk about Article 10, when you talk about public participation, it means bringing all the stakeholders and ensuring that their voices are heard. So that it's not only one type of stakeholder, maybe government, that has all the solutions or business. So that all the stakeholders are brought into the table. And we've seen the different, for example, policies or bills that have been passing or have been developed, like for example, the Kenya ICT Master Plan or the Broadband Strategy or Kenya ICT Policy. These documents have been used to propel our nation forward, because that's why Kenya is sometimes likened to the Silicon they call it Silicon Savannah. Yeah. Yeah, because all these different players have played their role. Media have worked in hyping this nation, and the businesses have been able to harness capital to come into Kenya. The government has tried to put conducive environment, subsequent governments within this space. So multi-stakeholder cannot be gainsaid, and it's an important point in ensuring that our digital future is enhanced. So that's something we should protect. And we have seen that the times that the government, for example, has gone astray and passed policies or even laws, even like, for example, the the past law that brought so much problem in this country, the finance bill, it had aspects on IT and tech that the community had given comments about it, and of course some players thought that they will not take those issues into account, and you saw the problem it brought into this country, because we are saying all voices need to be heard, all the voices need to be on the table. And I know many multinational organizations and international bodies, I see the value of multi-stakeholderism. For example, even ICANN has been the one championing the word multi-stakeholderism for the most years that we've been into this internet governance space. And going forward, if, for example, in Kenya we want more harmony in developing our policies, we still need to be able to embrace that model. And this will prevent, for example, we've seen in the courts, people going to court and challenging most of the policies, and most of the reasons why these laws or bills or policies have been thrown out is because of either lack of public participation, or two, if the public participation was there, it was not taken into account when they arrived into the final judgment or final policy decision that the government has taken.
Thank you very much, Kivuva. Before we move to the floor or to the audience, I want to turn to Bob to give us a global perspective. Of course, in Kenya, we have always aspired to think globally and to act locally. And it's no wonder we have many of the key internet institutions setting up shop locally because of our interest to support some of these global perspectives. So looking at our national digital aspirations, Bob, what opportunities are there at global stage that we could actually leverage on to help us achieve our digital aspirations, taking into considerations what the government has put out there as the objectives that they want us to attain, and practical realities of what somebody who is in Nyatike or say Takaungu can be able to identify with, just moving out of this room into something that is valuable and tangible to the community.
So thank you very much, Barrack. And I think we have been, or probably we by now must have had, the government's agenda on digital. I think that's how we call it, our agenda on digital. And if I have had it right, I think there's an element of 100,000 kilometers of fiber, I guess. There are probably 25,000 hotspots across the country targeting markets. So there are like it's a 4-point agenda or thereabout. Probably the question you want to ask yourself is, what was this based on? I'm not saying it is wrong or good, but what informed that? So in other words, and thinking globally and acting locally, maybe we need to do better in measurement, and so that when the government says, or policy says, or even private sector sets out to implement something, then there's a basis, and that basis is evidence-based. So what is informing that direction? What study, what evidence that you and me can actually refer to and confirm that yes, the government is right in going this direction, and therefore pull us together with them in that journey. So just saying that we probably need to do better or a better job in measurement, and probably therein, isolate or properly define what is really the component of our GDP that is tech-driven, or what is the contribution that our digital economy can contribute to our GDP. Some people call it IGDP. Do we know that figure? Probably we know what our GDP is, but what is the component, what component of that GDP can be attributable to the digital economy? Because when you are having evidence as the basis of your action, then you actually sound, or actually will be much more practical and authentic in the intervention that you make. So I think we probably need to do better on documenting and researching on what is the status of things, so that whatever we are trying to do is backed with some evidence. So that's one. And having said that, so ICANN did or commissioned a study in 2014, which you could be aware of. And I think the findings are pretty profound, even to the realities of today. And coming to your question, so we commissioned a report called Greasing the Wheels of the Digital Economy. This was done by the BCG Consulting Group back in 2014, and you can download it actually. It's freely available. And it identified 4 critical areas that can actually define to what extent an economy, or the digital economy of any country, could actually be impacted. And I like what the previous speaker talked about, infrastructures, and making it very specific to, you can look at infrastructure very differently, not the way we think about it as, wires, cables, and all these things. There's platform infrastructure, there's all manner of infrastructure. But one of the things that report identifies is the profound effect of the availability of infrastructure, actually physical digital infrastructure, to the country or to the netizens or to the users. And you say, which part of Kenya, whether it's Turkana, whether it's, my village in Kisumu, do they have access to infrastructure? And can we as a country list out what is hindering, the availability or lack of it of that particular infrastructure? So they point out that infrastructure availability or lack of it contributes to 2/3 of either the problem or the solution. And as a solution, probably that is where, again, as you say, if you went to Mandera today, is it practical to ask for fiber? And I think for our case, it then makes sense to be agnostic to new technologies. Is it fiber that is best for Mandera today, or it is something else? Do we actually have a role for community networks, which maybe 10 years ago probably was vocabulary to many sectors? So that actually then informs to what level, as a country, we should be flexible to adopt new technologies to actually intervene in such cases, because infrastructure contributes to 2/3 of your problems or your solutions. The other 3 things is individual specific impediments or characteristics, things that affect an individual and either can make you go online or not. And there can be very many, at an individual level. Then Kivuva talks about, if you look at registrations in China, for example, just for domain names, those 20 million names are probably not just individuals. They are SMEs, they are organizations, they are entities. So this report identifies that 1/6 of our problems are industry specific. So they're either issues that are either enable or disable the industry from adopting technologies. And I mean, a lot of things lie in there, including laws, which come in from all sectors, including finance bills, end up affecting digital sector, or having digital sector impacts. And the last one is what they are calling informational challenges or maturity. So to what extent is the ecosystem literate? To what extent do we have local content? And can we quantify those specific factors that either, hinder digital literacy or hinder the availability of the relevant local content in our economy? Now, if you were to map out these 4 areas in any economy and, design solutions that is addressing the challenges directly around these 4 areas, then potentially you can actually start seeing the proper contribution of the digital sector to that economy, including your domain names. And actually, domain names is a foundation. It is a foundation that can have an entire ecosystem, leveraging. And our example here today is take your 25,000 hotspots. And I think I've been saying that if, say, give us an example of Kenyatta Market hotspot, as a market, as a hotspot and as a fully fledged, website with, mama mbogas, with each of their stalls, properly labeled with everything that they're selling, and, fully implemented, including the relevant infrastructure to pay for whatever you want, probably to deliver to wherever you want it. Maybe that is a better implementation of this 25,000, flagship project. Therein, you probably end up with 25,000 domain names. But over and above that, you have an entire ecosystem with website builders, with digital content creation, with video content production. It is an entire ecosystem. So probably how we implement some of these flagship solutions or initiatives maybe is our greatest undoing.
Thank you very much, Bob. I would like to turn to the audience, even as we wind down, and probably give 3 opportunities. And my question to the audience is, do you feel we are on the right trajectory insofar as achievement of our national aspirations, digital aspirations is concerned? This is an open question. And what would your message be? We have a new CS who is from industry. She's been part and parcel of us. And I like the fact that this meeting is actually being broadcast and it's a conversation among industry. What would your message be to the new CS? You never know. The internet is powerful, isn't it? What would your message be on what we need to do to get us to our aspirations? Some hands, quick hands, so that we don't take much time with this. Yes, I see Labat there. Any other hand so that we take them in quick succession? Yes, yes, there's one there. Asante. Frederick. Go ahead, Labat.
Thank you. My name is Labat, the founder of Plugins Internet Exchange Point. I'd like to bring to the attention about optimizing the resources in Kenya. In Kenya, in terms of infrastructure, I believe we are very good. In terms of fiber optic cables that are running in our railway lines, in our Kenya pipeline, done by KICTAnet, done by the entire government bodies. Example, we have ICTA, which is supposed really to come in and play the role of allocation of the fiber optic cables. We have cables by KPLC. They're really trying a very good job to distribute the fiber. We have KICTAnet. They're also trying to distribute their services because they are part of the national infrastructure. We have Kenya Pipeline. We also have Kenya Railway, and we have the SGR. And I'm also understanding there is some other fiber optic lines called this data center in Mlolongo. So basically, we need to synchronize such that we don't all of us go dig the road. We have one secretariat, one authority that allocates and works out everything about it. The other part that I'd like to talk to the government mainly is about infrastructure and what are we feeding our Kenyans. Yes, if you have a kid and you can feed him crisps and popcorns and he'll be okay. But what about our own Kenyan contents? What about our Kenyan content providers? Why our TVs are all free to air? Why don't we have the same concept of free to air TVs on the online scope? Once all these things are done, and once all the policies, starting with this KICTAnet event, I believe our policy should be done so that all .ke domains, all our digital assets should be resident in Kenya. The Office of the Data Protection There should be no Kenyan data that's supposed to be hosted outside. When you talk about artificial intelligence mines data. But as Kenyans, where is our data? It's outside. So if you were to go and move into the artificial intelligence cycle, we need our own data here to mine, not for others to help us mine and give us the reports.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Frederick, if you can be brief so that we have parting remarks from the panelists.
Thank you. Thank you very much for KICTAnet and also for the panelists for the conversation. I'm Frederick from Kenya Cybersecurity and Forensic Association. So mine is from the context of investment, where we have seen most of these public initiatives and most of the community-led projects. For instance, we have the fiber optic, and also the public Wi-Fi hotspots the government is doing. So how is it possible? How is it possible to promote impact investing into these public community initiatives where we may not pay much attention to the return on the investment, but we focus more on a measurable social impact such that we do not only leave the government to use loans to fund these projects, but we have wealthy people who can put in their money into promoting these specific initiatives which have specific impact into the society. And also, of course, there will be some return on investment, but the key outcome is social impact and ensuring that the lives of the people are positively impacted. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Frederick. It reminds me of the story of Africa Online, how it started. Started as KICTAnet, or a news channel for Kenyans, grew into a communications business because they needed to pull news from nation here. And before you knew it, people were also using that same channel to send emails back and forth. And there we had the birth of one of the biggest ISPs on the African continent. And yes, such small things are what result in impact. And I think that's what Bob was talking about. Your parting remarks, Kivuva, and message also to an informal. Of course, KICTAnet will make the formal message. But what would our wish list to Madam CSB?
Okay, so first of all, I want to talk about local content. We have a lot of local content in Kenya, but it's in TikTok, it's in Twitter, it's on YouTube. That's our content, and it's local. We have produced it. It's in meta platforms. It's even Gmail. The emails you are writing to each other in the office, you're writing to the guy next to you. Maybe you are the CEO, you are writing to your marketing manager. That is local content you are producing, although it's going to a server in California. So it's not only about content. This big tech have managed to make content meaningful. They have been able to ensure that the video you've taken on your phone, you can be able to share it meaningfully. Twitter has made a platform where you can have a meeting with 25 million people attending at one go, like the one that happened with Donald Trump, or what happened with the Kenya Gen Z when they were organizing. 1 million people were tuning in on X Spaces. So we have our content. What we don't have is our own platforms, our own Twitters. And that's why even our cost of bandwidth is so high, because we have to pay for international transit. All the data has to land somewhere in Fujairah, in Dubai, or in some IXPs in Ireland and Netherlands, then go to Silicon Valley to bring all that data back. And that talks about investments in infrastructure. In Kenya, there's a lot of money. For example, when government floats what they call infrastructure bonds, tax-free. They floated 1-2 weeks ago of 50 billion Kenya shillings. And chances are that because the interests are very good, people will mop up 50 billion and buy into that bond. Local Kenyans, what does that say? We have so much capital within ourselves. And we probably will like more tangible things because, for example, the price of land in Kenya is very expensive. Let's go look at the price of land in Kilimani and go and check in the same price of land in Johannesburg. A more advanced economy than us. You find land in Nairobi is more expensive than there. Even farmland in UK is more expensive here in Kenya than in UK because we are investing more on non-tech or non-digital issues. And most of the investors in tech in Kenya are from the other countries. And for example, organizations here are being acquired from the West. The big ISPs here in Kenya are from investors that have come from the West. What are we doing with our capital? And the capital is there. So probably we need to know how to allocate our capital better and show there is value. We show the value proposition on our local investors. If they invest in tech, what return will they get? Will they get more than 18% than that the government is giving? That is the value proposition I would want to, and the challenge I would want to throw out there.
Thank you, Kivuva. Very weighty comments. Bob, your final remarks?
Thanks, Barrack. So in closing, I guess maybe to the CS as well, what would I maybe be my wish list? Very brief. I think first of all is government has two faces. If you look at it from whichever lens you are, it's a policy custodian, so it can make it either very easy to do business, including for the digital economy, or very difficult, depending on what kind of policies they want to identify with or they want to preside over. But it is also one of the largest consumers in any economy, and consumers for everything across the board, including the digital products. And probably the government can lead from the front by being a champion of local or consuming local, if that makes sense, as the biggest consumer. And I guess that would actually also foster trust for the rest of the citizenry. So that's one. Two is to embrace multi-stakeholderism, because this industry has got very many players. You have infrastructure people, you have content creators, you have everyone. And if you could provide an environment where they engage with you on an equal footing, whoever has put in the fiber is as important as whoever has created content that we are consuming, that is, being transmitted over that fiber. And so people need an environment to engage in an equal footing, meaning even government comes just as, one of the stakeholders. And probably that will really go a long way in, creating a trustworthy environment. Probably the digital sector could lead in trying to craft trust, and the rest of the government can actually follow. And I believe so because it could be, that one place that, stirs up the waters. If you ever spent a night with one mosquito in the room, you can imagine whether you will sleep or not. Just one mosquito can make sure you don't sleep. So it is not too small to start as, the ministry to champion this, because that's where, the rest of government could actually follow. As we say at ICANN, all domain names were created equally. So your .ke is as good as your .africa, is as good as your .durban, and therefore we owe, .ke, our trust and confidence and our consumption. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Bob. And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to the end of this panel. Very interesting panel, despite the extra time that we have taken. I'm sure they've left us with a lot to think about, and I would wish to hand over back to Gitau to tell us what is in store for us today or tomorrow. Thank you very much.